Hi guys, welcome back to the channel. I have bought myself a Porsche Cayman S with engine problems and we're going to try and get the engine out, get the problem fixed and get the car back on the road again. I'm going to get the engine out in this video. If you didn't see the last video, on the last video we got the exhaust off and got the gearbox out with not too much trouble, a few bolts that were not wanting to come out and stuff, but we persevered and got there. Bit of heat helped. So in this one we're going to get the engine out and get it onto we're basically going to drop down onto the toolbox I think and then lift the car up off the engine. Also we have ordered a twin turbo kit for the car this time, so hopefully that's going to arrive around the end of April. But let's get the engine out and see where we go from there.
So to be honest, I already had most things disconnected in the last video when I was getting ready to drop the gearbox out, so not much more here to do really. Mainly getting the toolbox positioned underneath the engine to support it so that I could lift the car up off the engine. Then just a matter of taking the main front engine mounting off. I had to feed the wiring loom through a hole in the boot from where the ECU is mounted. The ECU is mounted just in the back corner on the passenger side, so disconnecting all that and then feeding the wiring loom out through the hole on the passenger side, or sorry, on the driver's side, and getting that out just so that everything was free to drop the engine out. So then it was just a matter of taking the front engine mounting off. Once we had the front engine mounting off, then it was just a matter of keeping an eye on everything as we lifted the car up off the engine, just to make sure nothing was in the way and nothing would get caught as we lifted the car up. But of course there's always something that you've forgotten to disconnect or unplug, but we did manage to catch it just in the nick of time before we done any damage, and got that disconnected, and then it was only a matter of getting the car on up and off the engine.
Woo! One engine out, one toolbox under severe pressure. Right, now we've got the engine out. Tonight's plan is to strip the engine, get all the accelerators off, and leave basically a bare block and heads, so that we can then strip that and start the rebuild process. So let's get the wiring loom off, we're going to get the inlet manifolds all off, and just basically take whatever off we can. And try and not break anything as we do it. Take some more pictures for reference for whenever we put them back together again. Never have enough photographs. your drive belt, which actually sits up at the front of the engine. So you're changing this normally when it's in the car. You actually have to go in through the inside of the car, take the bulkhead out, and you can change it in that way. It's not the handiest, but thankfully the engine's out before. Belt. It's actually quite good condition, but we'll probably change it while we're in there.
Right, so taking all the bits off the engine once we had the engine out was really only just a matter of trying to work around and take everything off in the right order, which was a bit of a puzzle at times, but I just had to keep working through it, and some stuff came off easy enough, some stuff was a wee bit trickier to try and work out how it came off, but I got there just by trial and error. I tried to keep putting screws back into holes that I took them out of, just for future reference, so I knew where all the screws were going. Also, anything that I took off that left a hole, like inlet manifold, oil ways, all that stuff, I was getting some blue tissue and stuffing it in the hole just to make sure we didn't drop any nuts or bolts or anything down in there and cause problems in the future whenever we got the engine built again, so that's always a good thing to do. The aircon compressor was next to come off up the top. It came off pretty easy, not too many problems with that, came straight off. Power steering pump was a little bit trickier. Once I took the pulley off, it was just a wee bit awkward to try and get it out through the hole in the mounting bracket, but again, just keep working at it and eventually managed to get it out. Alternator came off again pretty easy and pretty straightforward, and as you can see, we just kept screwing things off till we had everything unscrewed.
Right, I think we're going to call it a night. Not too bad. We got most of the stuff off. So next night we'll do the water pump, the fuel pump, the rest of the pulleys and stuff off, see what else we can strip, finish it all off. But yeah, not a bad night, just a lot of stuff to tidy up now, find a home for all this stuff until we get the engine back and after it's rebuilt so we can build it back on again. So yeah, good night, but yeah, thanks.
So, welcome to Mervyn Johnson's. Mervyn is an independent Porsche specialist here in Moneymore. If you're involved in the Porsche scene at all in Northern Ireland, you will have at least heard of this man, if not availed of his services. Mervyn knows everything there is to do about Porsches. As you can see, there's one just sitting at the door here. There's actually Porsches everywhere around here. It's a nice place to visit and see all the projects he has going on. So Mervyn's very kindly agreed to keep an eye on me stripping the rest of this engine, just making sure I'm not going to do anything stupid or break something or end up not being able to put this engine back together again. So once Mervyn had kind of given me a few pointers, I got stuck straight into getting the rest of this engine pulled apart. First of all, the cam cover off, then we managed to get the camshafts out, followed by the hydraulic valve lifter housing, which I kind of left all the hydraulic valves or the hydraulic buckets in place and kind of lifted the whole housing out in one piece, keeping everything sort of in its place. Although I did mark everything with a marker pen just to make sure I knew exactly which hydraulic buckets were for what cylinder. Next thing was unscrewing all the head bolts. Some were well hidden, let me tell you, but I eventually managed to find them all. and managed to get the cylinder head off with a little bit of persuasion with a rubber hammer. Always helps. Then with a bit more advice from Mervyn, back to unscrewing things. The next thing was try and get the crank casings split and apart. But the first thing to do in that was take the bottom of the sump off. So whenever I got the bottom plate of the sump off, we actually found some bits of metal in the oil pump filter gauze, which has obviously come from somewhere in the engine. It was obviously where the knot was coming from has done some damage. So there was bits of metal in there. Maybe have a picture there we can stick up. So once I took a picture of that, then back to pulling things off. I managed to get all the pickup pipes and all the oil pickup pipes removed, unbolted, and then all the bolts holding the two crankcases together, got all them removed, some hidden as well, but managed to get them all apart. So we've moved the engine now off the engine stand to allow us to try and get the two crankcasings apart, and once we get the two crankcases split apart, you can then that leaves you with the crankshaft housing, and the pistons are attached obviously to either side of the crankshaft housing.
No wonder it's not. Jeez, no wonder it's rattling.
Well, I say two notes it's like a lamb bag.
So number one piston crankshaft bearing was nearly completely missing. It was so badly worn. So we were getting the knock was coming from both ends of the stroke. So she was hitting the cylinder head at one end, and then the bottom end of the stroke she was bottoming out on the crankshaft. So we were getting knocks from both sides. That's why she sounded like a cement mixer. So at least we've kind of found out what the problem was, and it's now just a matter of going from there. There was no major scores actually in the crankshaft, so nothing deep anyway, so we can hopefully get the crankshaft reground and fit some oversized bearings. Anyway, let's get the rest of this engine apart. Pistons was the next thing to remove once we got the crankshaft housing out. So the whole crankshaft housing removed from the two crankcases, and then starting to unscrew the pistons. Again, marking everything with the marker pen to make sure that we knew exactly what cylinders, what pistons came from. And then that was pretty much it. The complete engine was now in bits, and we've it all marked up and in container boxes everywhere, ready to get it all cleaned up and refit it once we get the engine back from the engineers. So engine off now to PowerMax Engineering in Macrofelt. Hopefully they're going to work their magic and do what they can do for us. We've already spoke to the guys at PowerMax. Need to have another conversation with them just to finalise what exactly we're going to do. Hopefully we're going to bore the engine out, re-sleeve it, put new piston liners in it. Just when we have the engine apart, I kind of feel let's do it right, so we don't have to take it apart again. So the idea is to hopefully bore out the 3.8 from the 3.4, new piston liners in, and because we have bought a twin turbo kit from MRN for this engine, I'm hopefully going to build the engine low compressions, so that I can up the boost with the turbo kit. Might as well take the max out of it. So I need to speak to the guys at PowerMax just to see what pistons we're going to order. Probably going to be bespoke pistons to allow the engine to run low compression. So we need to speak to the guys, get all the parts ordered up, get the crankshaft reground, and see what all they need to do. So hopefully we'll get the engine all done from the engineering side of things as quick as possible, so we can get it back, get it rebuilt, and get it back, and then get it back in the car. So thanks for watching, guys, and remember to subscribe, thumbs up if you like the video, the usual, and you'll not miss anything coming in the future. Sorry it's been a bit of time in between the videos, but it's just trying to get this stuff done on my time off. It's not always easy, but stick with me, bear with us, and hopefully we'll have some more footage in the near future. Thanks again.